Hi, Amelia. Everyone, we've got Amelia Foxton here. Amelia is an actress. She's her background's communications and media, but today, I guess what's more relevant is her experience with autism. Amelia has three gorgeous children, two of whom do have different forms of autism. So given that it's Autism Awareness Month, thought what better time to have her on as a subject matter expert to excuse me, be able to share with us, I guess, what her experiences have been, particularly within the healthcare system, but on a day-to-day basis, things that can be good pointers for us if we're dealing with children or families who are experiencing autism. So thanks, Amelia.
Thanks for having me, Jo.
So you live with autism every day with your little ones. So can you share with us a little bit about what your day-to-day life is like?
So I've got the three children. The two older children are diagnosed with autism. The youngest has some symptoms, but not quite enough to warrant diagnosis. My eldest child is the more classic style of autistic on the spectrum, whereas my daughter is the kind that you have to follow around for about 48 hours to really see the moments when there it is. The other one is fairly the day-to-day is different from other parents in as much as it is more challenging to get through fairly normal tasks. Dressing, eating, showering, self-care, even playing requires quite a lot of support. So an example might be, in my case, one of the hardest things to get through is a meal. Quite severe food aversions, but my eldest has them so severely that every meal is a very anxiety-driven, very difficult to get through.
Even now at his age?
So he's 8 turning 9, and even now he still occasionally requires hand feeding, and certainly every mouthful being put into his mouth, then being chewed, then being swallowed, all needs prompting. Every single bit of it. So it is things that should be quite fast take quite a long time, and everything that should be quite a fairly standard task can be quite challenging. So my days are a bit more of an ordeal compared to perhaps more of a standard parent.
So it's Bernard, isn't it, your eldest?
Yes, that's right.
So when did you say Bernard or Bernard?
I say Bernard.
Bernard, okay, cool. So when did you first start to notice some symptoms?
Bernard was an interesting case because he is what's referred to as regressive style autistic. So he developed as a fairly normal baby from a newborn up until about 12 months old. He developed fairly normally, except in hindsight, I think now we realise he was a bit too advanced. At 10 months old, he had about 50 words. He walked. Everything was a bit earlier than it should be, and I wonder these days whether that was in fact a symptom in a way, that his brain was zooming ahead in the way it did. He did always stim, self-stimulatory behaviour, referred to in the autism community as stimming. He always did little things with his hands that were a bit odd, and we just call them acute oddities, but it turned out to be stimming behaviour. But other than that, he was a very normal child. Lots of smiles, plenty of eye contact. Sensory stuff was very standard, very typical. About 12 months, he stopped smiling very much. He started dropping, and we saw quite a decrease in eye contact. 15 months, we saw a rapid, very sudden drop in all of those things, to the point where we really didn't talk to him. We didn't get any communication with him at all anymore. By the time he was 18 months, he'd become so overwrought with sensory issues that he was now self-harming quite extremely. So we'd find him each day bashing his head against the concrete. This is a baby in that business, 18 months old. Bashing his head into the concrete, screaming, running, bashing into walls, whatever he could to try and drown out the attack that the world was putting on him through too much sensory. So it was that was really very tricky. These days, after very long, very intensive early intervention therapies is now talking in sentences. There's still quite a lot of echolalia, echolalia being echoing things. So in the case of many autistic children, they'll use this as their way of communicating because in a way it's safe and it's more comfortable because they know how it starts, how it ends, they know exactly how to put it. Echolalia tends to be something that helps children, not just autistic children, it's not exclusive to autism, but it helps them to communicate in a way that's comfortable.
Yeah.
There's still quite a bit of that, but he's getting better at normal conversations with dialogue, which is wonderful. And he's a very happy child now, and he's pretty good with eye contact as well. So we've come a long, long way, and it's been a hard slog, but we've put in place to do it.
And so how did your daughter differ?
Josie was very different, almost polar opposite in many ways. Josie was in fact an incredibly advanced baby, and she was tested for her IQ around the age of 2. She was a 97th percentile on IQ, and under the 15 on functionality.
I think you're cutting out just a little bit when you lean back to the sound.
Okay, let me know.
Yeah, it's just when you lean back, it cuts out a little bit. I can't hear you.
All right, so Josie was almost the polar opposite. Josie was an incredibly advanced child. When she was 2 years old, she was tested for IQ, and they found her to be in the 97th percentile, whilst being below the 15th in functionality. And what that means is that her little nervous system gets so overwrought that she can't sit still. So this little incredible little mind, who had the language of a 5-year-old at 2 years old,
Lucky you.
mind, can't sit still long enough to do anything. So within this test, she had to move and bang and bash against things in between every question just to get one more question out. And then her body would overtake her again, and we'd have to bash into her a few times, because both of my children are sensory under-responsive, meaning that they don't feel quite as much as other people, and sensory seeking, meaning that they seek out firm input. So they want, as opposed to the stereotype of autistic children not like being touched, they in fact want a lot of heavy touching. They seek that out. So that
when you say heavy touching, you just mean holding firmly, or?
Oh no, I mean all of it. We play rumbles, much firmer than other children would enjoy.
Okay.
Sometimes heavy massages. Sometimes, even as a newborn, I would give her quite firm massages, and she really enjoyed that. That calmed her right down. Sometimes we put them in constricting clothes, and that actually helps calm them as well. There are singlets that you can buy, for instance, that are extremely tight, and this serves as a calming thing for their nervous system, and they're able to function better for the day that they're wearing that. But yes, no, she'll literally still to this day run into walls sometimes just to get an impact that gives her some kind of relaxation, some calm away from the nervous system being basically on fire. So it's a very different situation with Josie, because she communicates really well, beautifully. Socially, she's also quite exceptional, but she has such a hard time being still and in the moment because her body is overrun with the sensory issues.
And those sensory issues, it sounds like they've improved a bit since they were little, so do they anticipate that they'll continue to improve, or will there be sort of a point at which it won't go any further?
I don't think, when it comes to Josie's issues, she's not seen an improvement. We have given her many strategies, and her therapists working with us have given her many strategies to handle them and to lower the outcome. But
how old is she?
To be honest, that she's 6 turning 7 quite soon, and to be honest with you, it's not getting better. What's getting better is her capacity to understand what's happening to her body and to understand what she can do, what techniques to use to try and calm that system down so that she can function. For instance, in the classroom, making her things to kick under the desk, and they'll give her bouncing breaks on a mini trampoline.
Yeah.
And that means she gets another 5 minutes where she can sit still long enough to do class. So
My son could have done with that at school, to be honest.
I know, I think that's good for all children. But yeah, to be honest, I don't know that the sensory stuff is getting better, and I don't know that there is a cure. I don't believe that's true, but there are definitely strategies that can help you function in society and in life. For Bernard, his food aversions have also been incredibly challenging. We've done endless hours of therapy on it, and we've seen very little improvement, except that his understanding of the issue and of food is improving. And likewise, I think ultimately it is that understanding and the strategies that they are taught that will help them do well in the future.
So how have you gone with support, like from family, government? Because it would be a huge workload.
It is. I've been very lucky because I have a good family nearby who help whenever I need a break. That's one of the things I would say that most parents who have children with autism require, is the occasional moment to
respite
and have a breather. And that's I know all parents need a break, and that, you know, it's a tough job being a parent. Being a parent with a child with special needs can be exactly stressful, and just being able to have a breather sometimes is a bit of a lifesaver, to be honest. So I've had the good fortune of having my family nearby to take my children every now and then so I can have a stress break. But they're also very supportive in the strategies that we use and the therapies that we apply to them at home. So that's been wonderful. I've also been using, through the NDIS, support workers to come to my home and help with things such as self-care strategies, calming strategies, and getting through meals. Then we have our therapy team. We have an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, and a psychologist who work.
And they come to you, or you go to them?
They come to the children's school these days. So they're coming to our home, and there was another time earlier than that when we went to their office. But what we do is we find the location that the children are most likely to be able to absorb what's being said. To be honest, the calmest that they are is when they're at school. I think it's about being in a classroom and in uniform that brings their psychology.
Peer pressure.
Now is the time to behave.
Yeah.
They're more likely to be exhausted at the end of the day when they get home, and less able to focus. So at school has been a bit of a bonus for us that the therapists can do sessions at school.
Yeah, I often say my school gets the best of Finn. He gets, you know, the time at school where he's under those boundaries and medication and everything, and he comes home and a completely different child. So how do you find the healthcare system? So naturally you would have presented to the doctor early stages with some questions. How did that go?
Not great, to be honest. I had a really rough time trying to get a diagnosis for Bernard. I spent more time trying to convince GPs. I'll speak only to GPs when I talk negatively. It's been marvellous, but I had a lot of trouble with GPs specifically, not understanding autism enough to be able to give me the support I needed. So we had one GP say that Bernard was very naughty, and that was his problem. Another said that it was just testosterone and that's how boys behave. Another said that that child's hugging you, therefore they can't be autistic, which is
touching you.
Incredibly outdated, like decades outdated opinion. And another one commented that eye contact happened, so therefore that child can't be autistic. And again, incredibly outdated. Lots of children with autism can make at least momentary eye contact. So there was a lot of misinformation within the medical community. I believe, I've talked to a couple of GPs since then who have advised me that I believe they spend one day learning about autism in their entire training, and therefore how on earth could they possibly understand it? It's an incredibly complex issue. So I understand that they may not have all the information, but I found it very difficult to get someone to finally give me the reference to go, the referral to go and see a pediatric psychologist.
I know GPs do get a bad rap. What was that, sorry?
Diagnosed Bernard within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how obvious Bernard was with these GPs telling me that, yeah. So it was tricky. It was tricky and it was very, very frustrating. Once I had the diagnosis, it was all systems go. That was marvelous thereafter. Once you have the diagnosis, everybody is there to help. You have the developmental pediatricians, psychologists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, behavioural therapists, in my case even biomedical therapists, all got involved and were all there to help. And we had some, at the time, faculty of funding to help us pay for all those things, which was marvellous. So we had a couple of years of very intensive early interventions put in place all through the medical community, which was incredible, and it's made a huge difference for my children.
So how did you find presenting with Josie to the GPs, or did you not go to the GP? You just had a better idea?
I did, but by then I was so well educated myself on autism that I basically walked in and said, this is what's going on, give me a referral. Yeah. Instead of saying, I don't know what's going on, they knew better than I did, I went in there and basically, and because we now know that there is a massive genetic component, they didn't question it so much because I already had the older son with autism. And even though Josie does not present immediately like a child with autism, classically speaking, I was able to do that just by being a bit demanding, I think. I went to the same developmental pediatrician. It took a little longer to diagnose Josie because she does present as a higher functioning child. So that, in that case, we required a panel of therapists to each diagnose her individual symptoms. We got the diagnosis thereafter.
And I imagine the treatment's quite different because they have different symptoms, for want of a better word.
Believe it or not, it's extremely similar. It's interesting because yeah, even though the symptoms are very different, it's technically the same concern with the neural pathways of the brain being damaged or malfunctioning or even missing. And so you treat it in very much the same way. What you're trying to do is, while the brain is young and therefore malleable, you are trying to train the brain to find new neural pathways or mend them or basically learn how to function in all the capacities that are required day to day. So believe it or not, the therapies don't vary dramatically from one extremely affected child to a high functioning child. They do vary based on symptoms. So for instance, my oldest child, his food aversions are way worse than Josie's. So he would get a lot more concentration there, but they both get the same food therapy. In the same way, behavioural therapy is just symptoms based if there's violence or if there is extreme meltdowns or anything, you'd obviously treat those specific symptoms. But again, they all get very similar therapies.
Bernard goes to a normal school as well, does it?
They actually all go to a typical school, but they're within a satellite class for autism specific teaching. So they started in an autism specific school, and then they went out to a mainstream school where there is a satellite class run by the autism specific school. So it's the same teaching methods and the same teacher-to-child ratio, being 2 teachers to every 6 children. And they do get very specialised education, but they're within the mainstream setting, so they get to interact with the mainstream children and have the more mainstream day-to-day activities outside of the classroom.
That's a better word, mainstream, sorry. Was it normal? So that's sort of healthcare, and it's great that I guess the specialists in that area have been a lot more supportive. How have you found people just generally in the community?
Generally speaking, people are good. They are kind, and I think there is a much greater understanding these days than even when we were young to what is autism and what's all kinds of special needs. In fact, I think are better understood these days and better accepted. Yeah, I've done quite a bit of work in disabilities inclusions, and I'm finding that we are a changed society now compared to just a couple of decades ago, where back then, anyone with disabilities of any sort was still pretty much pushed out of the way, whereas these days they're taken and they're accepted. We have a ways to go. We have a bit more work to do and more education to get out there, but people are kind mostly. People are generous mostly. And it is really only the ignorant few who will still treat a child who is different as naughty or defunct. And I've had very little experience of that. I'm very lucky. I do have friends who've had a lot of experience of that, unfortunately. So it does exist. But we're getting there. We're getting places, I think.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when you live to it's probably a bit nicer, calmer place down there. So for the future, what concerns do you have? I mean, we all have concerns as parents for, where our children are going, but you've got a few added extras there. What sort of comes to mind?
There are a few. The main ones being a ridiculous number of adult autistic people end up in jail, believe it or not, statistically speaking. And this is often because they haven't got a proper understanding of law, or law is too difficult for them to follow. They don't have the supports they require to understand their circumstances. There's things like that concern me a lot. I'll obviously do everything I can to avoid that issue, but because the brains function so differently and they may not have necessarily the supports in place, they may make mistakes that they don't realise they're making. And that's how that kind of trouble can occur. I also get worried about manipulation of them. That's a big one, because there is not an ignorance, but perhaps a naivety to somebody who has so much more to deal with that they don't necessarily understand the basic functionings of the world like everyone else does. They're more open to manipulation, and that bothers me an awful lot. That worries me an awful lot.
And they are still very young too, so that's pretty normal to have those concerns.
Yes, and it's funny because originally as a parent, I think I wanted what all parents want, which is for your children to grow up incredibly successful and wonderful and wealthy. And now I understand what it is that makes a better thing to reach for, to aim for my children, I think, is that they are happy. That's it. And that can be as simple as being able to function day to day. That can be as simple as having a day job or being able to travel. It doesn't really matter what form it takes. My main focus is to get them to an adulthood in which they can be happy, whatever form that takes. So I'm not reaching for success or a special job or anything like that anymore. All I reach for is a place in society where they feel comfortable, secure, and happy.
I think happiness, or finding happiness, is the ultimate success.
That's right.
That's what everyone really strives for when you hear all the self-help books and various, the prizes, I guess, they go after, whether it's fame or money. At the end of the day, it's happiness that's behind all of that they're seeking. So if you've got that, you've won.
You're winning. That's it.
And how would you like people to, I guess, view autism? Like, if you could sort of send a message out there to people.
My biggest message about autism is this is not what everyone believes, but this is what I believe. Autism's hard. It's almost always debilitating in at least one or two ways. Sometimes in many, many ways it can be debilitating. But it's also beautiful. Autism is a different way of thinking, a different way of seeing the world. It brings a new perspective, and it brings incredible beauty and kindness and warmth. I've met hundreds of children with autism now, and a few adults, and they are beautiful, happy, wonderful people if you get to know them. And I think if you look throughout history at some of our most incredible creators, artists, musicians, mathematicians, scientists, if you look at their lives and if you look at their autobiographies and things that were written about them, many of them were probably autistic. The truth is, I believe, need autistic people for this species to move forward, to function with these behaviours and to find new innovation. So don't see it as a curse. It is in fact a blessing. It is hard. It comes with difficulties that require supports, but it is also beautiful and wonderful. They are different, but they're not less.
Absolutely.
Celebrate them. Celebrate people on the spectrum.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It's a great message, and yeah, I completely agree that a lot of people in history that seem a little left of centre, be it autism or something going on, they're the ones who've really shaped most of our history and brought in new innovations, new ways of thinking. So the mainstream, I think we become like zombies a little bit. We start to lose our creativity and thinking outside the box, so definitely needed. Also than ever at the moment.
That's very true.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all that. So I hope that brings some awareness to everybody about autism and the range, I guess, of autistic children that are out there. Just perfect example in your family. So really appreciate your time, Amelia.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.